Welcome to Pet Pals. I'm Dee Dee, and this is Randy, and we're here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center, bringing you adoptable pets, hoping that somebody will make a match of a pet they can add to their family. But we also like to bring you information about adoption in general, the shelter in particular, and ways that you can help animals even if you're not going to adopt. Our first guest this morning is Saturn. And Saturn is an 8-month-old pit bull puppy who has been raised very well. And we also have his brother and a sister who was already adopted, and his brother Charlie has an application. So it looks like he'll be adopted as well, and just Saturn will be left. These puppies are American Pit Bull Terriers, as you can plainly see, probably mixed breeds, but we can't be sure. We don't have papers on them. So what you often hear people say is there's a couple of sayings. One is it's the deed, not the breed. So you can't ignore genetics of a dog. They do inherit behavior and the looks of their parents, but it certainly does not make them any special way. For example, if you took a litter of Border Collie puppies and both parents were excellent sheep herders, then let's say the litter had 5 puppies. 2 of those puppies would be excellent sheep herders, and the other 3 would not, and they would need other kinds of work. So I explain that so that you'll understand that genetics is not the be-all and end-all, and you can't make puppies turn out the way that you want. That's up to nature. And then there is the element of nurture. When puppies are brought into the world, if they see the world as a safe and wonderful place, then they're going to be like these puppies. Like Saturn, like people, be confident, want to approach new things. And that is something that nurture does. But if you get a dog that is, 6 months or so, and they haven't had those experiences, then you need to create those for them. These puppies sit when you ask them to, and they're quite young for that. So they are, they're very well raised. So these guys have both going for them. They are nice, outgoing, confident puppies, and they've been raised in a way that maximizes that potential. By going places and doing things, you're just going to keep your head there. That they have had great experiences, so they're very confident, and they like being with people. So they're just going to make really great puppies. If you are interested in 2 things, number 1, a puppy, because it's a lot of work, and number 2, a bully breed, because they're loyal and energetic, and people are scared of them. So you have kind of an ambassador role in making sure that your dog is an example of what every dog should be: well-trained, well-handled, and healthy. Our next guest is Al, and Al is an American Bulldog, and he is about the same age as the litter of puppies, one of whom you just met. And these dogs are big and strong, and one of the important things about them is they look very much like pit bulls. They just aren't, but they are part of the bully breed family, and they're loyal and have the same kind of coat, and he is shedding like crazy. A lot of times people ask, is there something you can do about dog shedding? And I will tell you, there's a little bit you can do. First of all, if you take a if you take, what Randy just said was brush them, but if you take a wet washcloth and rub them down during the shedding season, which is the time during which the days are getting longer. Doesn't matter the temperature. A lot of times people wonder, why their dogs start shedding in February when it's still cold out. And that's because it's triggered by the amount of light during the day, so they can get ready for spring and summer. Another thing that you can do is you can choose a dog with a coat type that is more likely to help you manage the shedding hair. There's no such thing as a hypoallergenic dog. Not even sure why that started, but I'll explain a little bit. And there's no such thing as a dog that doesn't shed. However, dogs that have curly or wiry hair, when their loose hairs detach, they stay on the dog, stuck to the dog. And that is responsible for what's commonly called matting. Their hair gets tangled up because that loose hair gets stuck and interwoven. So the reason that those coats are considered better for people with allergies is that their hair doesn't fall out in the environment and blow on you and get on you and trigger your allergies. But they still shed and they still need care to get the loose hairs off of them. If a dog has very curly or long hair, that's usually handled by going to a groomer and having it done professionally, or you can learn to do it yourself. But it also can be handled by regular brushing, which is what Randy was talking about. So this guy is going to be very easy to take care of his coat. And as you can see, it was very easy for Randy to get him settled in here. He came in all excited and jumping on everyone and smelling the carpet and trying to see what was going on in the room. But he actually settled down right away. And a lot of dogs that have white fur have pink skin underneath, but you do have to be concerned when it's as pink as his skin is around his nose and eyes that he has allergies. And I actually don't know if dogs can in particular be allergic to human dander. I'm sure it's possible. But common allergies for dogs are pollens just like us. And when we inhale pollens, our nose runs. When dogs inhale pollens that they react to, their skin itches all over. So if a dog has allergies, you just need to be in touch with a vet about how you can minimize their symptoms just like you would for yourself. Our next guest is Diamond, and Diamond is wearing what people commonly refer to as the cone of shame, which is really unfortunate, but it is catchy and it does explain. So a lot of times when dogs act deferent, or some people call it submissive, people think it means that they are sorry or apologetic, and that's not actually true. For dogs, shows of deference are to avoid conflict. So sometimes when a dog is wearing a cone, they are letting you know that they are trying to avoid that conflict. They feel like maybe you're displeased or they're trying to win favor, so they act like they're ashamed. And so that's why people call it that. But she has to wear it while she is healing, and she just heard the door rattle. She has to wear it while she is healing so that she can, so she won't hurt herself or lick her incision or anything like that. So Diamond is not going to have to wear it forever. And she is, as you can plainly see, some kind of little, maybe a little bit of Whippet or a little terrier. She is maybe a little border collie. She is a perfect size dog because you could take her out camping and on trails, and she can go out and about. But she is also small enough that in an emergency you could pick her up if you had to. Mm. And her sister was also here, Midnight. Midnight's already adopted. So she is, actually they were strays, so we don't know if they're actual sisters, but they look similar and seem about the same age, so we guessed at that. And she is available for adoption. And what we wanted to have her on TV for is, as you can see, sorry sweetie, her cone got caught on my shoe, is that she's very lively and active in the kennel. And she barks a lot and jumps on the cage because she wants to come out. But I thought it would really help her if people saw her in this more house-like setting, because she is very alert like a border collie. She pays attention. As you can see, she really likes to be pet. And she's very smart. So,
she looks old.
Oh yeah, Randy wanted to point out she has white on her face, but she is a really young dog. She is only 10 months old, and we judge that by their teeth. So, and the younger they are, the better the guess. So she's got a lot of great qualities. Her size, she's alert and intelligent, and has a really nice coat for taking care of. So I'm hopeful that somebody will see her on the show and say, oh, she would make a perfect match. Our next guest is Bonnie. And as you can see, Bonnie is a mixed breed dog, some kind of terrier, but you could say maybe she's part Cairn Terrier, maybe she's part Schnauzer, maybe she's part Poodle. Yes, and Gary, I just called you your son's name. Randy is saying that Schnauzer poodles are commonly called schnoodles. And she is a sweet, a little dog that came in with 2 other tiny dogs, and we had a tour of tiny kids come into the shelter a couple days ago. And as we went by their cage of these 3 little dogs, they just wagged and were on the gate. They were so excited to see them. So it's something that people often ask us about smaller dogs. Are they good with kids? And while that definitely assumes gentle kids and kids who are good with dogs, but it is attractive for people to get a smaller dog if it's a busy family or if you live in an apartment. And here are some things that you should consider. Smaller dogs sometimes have a higher energy level than large dogs. So you want to consider the energy level just as much as you do the size of the dog. The second thing you want to consider is their experience with kids. So even if they're friendly and outgoing, if they have been around children that weren't well supervised, who teased or hurt or grabbed them, then they might be quick to reprimand a child, and the way dogs do that is by growling, and sometimes kids don't understand what that means. And if they don't heed the growl, then the next thing the dog does is snap at them. So if they've had great experience with kids, where kids have fed them and played with them and pet them, then they have a totally different attitude. So if you are looking for a family pet, we look at the dog's experience. Have they lived with children successfully? We also look at the dog's behavior around children. Are they friendly and confident and have good body language? And then we also consider what the child needs. Some children are going to want a dog that they can pick up and carry around. So you have to decide if you want a small dog and to encourage that and supervise that, or if you want a big dog so you can eliminate the risk of that happening. Just a lot to consider. And when you have multiple kids, you have to consider that too, because kids hurt each other. And when dogs are part of the family, it's like, you know, a 4-legged sibling. So they need supervision and training and all kinds of time together so that you can know how they're going to be. Now, Bonnie has the perfect coat that we were talking about earlier that technically isn't going to shed. All dogs shed. But when her loose hairs come out, they're going to stay on her coat and need to be brushed away. So if you are interested in having the advantage of not having hair on your furniture and carpet, but having to groom your dog, then Bonnie might be the dog for you. We are back with our final canine guest of this episode. This is Nero. And Nero is obviously a mixed lab. We don't know how old he is for sure. The people who gave him to us have had him 4 or 5 years, and they got him from a rescue. And most of the rescues that we work with take their dogs back if they ever get into trouble. This rescue that they told us they got him from, you know, it takes a while to get the information about the rescue, see if they remember who they were, what state they were in, and whatnot. The bottom line of Nero's story is that they gave him up because he's old now. And normally when people have to, hi honey, when people have to, I'm old now too, when people have to part with their pets, they do so because they have a family crisis. They aren't able to take care of their pet. They sometimes aren't able to take care of each other. They've lost their home, they've lost their job. There are many reasons. I mean, if you have a pet and you can imagine what would it take for you to give up your pet, they're tragic, tragic stories. But this one is really hard for us because they did the right thing, went to a rescue and got a secondhand dog, which is wonderful. But then they gave up on him when he got old. So we're estimating he could be over 10 years old. As you can see, he's in great shape. Randy said when he went to get him out of the cage, he's jumping up on the cage and he pulls on the leash. So he's a hardy, healthy dog. He does need to lose a little bit of weight, and we can help him with that, as can you, whoever adopts him. But we need to get somebody with a really big heart. We are, very happy to help these dogs find a new home. But when they have a story like this, it's just so hard to know that he went to a rescue, he got rescued, and it didn't stick. So he needs it again, and he deserves it because he's a really good dog. So we're going to be back after a short break with some adoptable cats that are available at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. So I hope you join us.
Whoa! Oh, man.
If you're concerned that there is a party taking place where there's underage drinking or drugs being used, or that you've heard that a party is going to take place, there's a tip line that you can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's 301-600-1318.
We are back with some feline guests at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center on Rosemont Avenue. And our first is beautiful Rose, who is a pale gray tabby, only 8 months old. And all of our cats that you're going to be meeting in the next segment came to us as strays. So what does that mean? A lot of times people feel like a stray cat means an unwanted cat or an unfriendly cat or an unhealthy cat, and none of that is true. All it means is that we don't know the cat's owner. Clearly, she's been around people. She's only 8 months old, which means she lived through this winter. Unlikely for her to have done that without some support. So she came to us just as you see her now. She's pretty tiny. And we will, before you take her home, spay her, microchip her. She's been started on her vaccines. We check her for parasites. A vet looks her over. A vet looks her over again when she gets spayed. So they get a lot of care when they're here. And we ensure that she's litter trained. And we write down all the things that we know about her so that we can share with you. And as you can see, she is an affectionate little kitty. And for an 8-month-old, she's a little mellow. Some 8-month-old kittens are pretty active, and Randy has a hard time keeping them in your camera view. But that doesn't mean when she goes home to your house, she won't have times where she runs around like the crazy kitten that she could be. They just won't be as often as a cat that's more rambunctious and energetic. And she is just very, very pretty, but she is just a sweet, sweet little cat. So if you are thinking of getting a kitten but don't know if you want to go all the way to the 3-pounder who is going to, you know, jump around quite a bit and need supervision, but you're not sure that you want to get an adult cat, then she might be the perfect match for you. And one of the things we want to do this time of year is make sure our teenager kittens get chosen, because between April and October we get so many tiny ones that sometimes they get passed over. Our next guest is Biff, and Biff is another teenager cat. He is not quite a year old, and he also came to us as a stray. And as you can plainly see, he's a beautiful black cat, my favorite. And he is the perfect age for integrating into your house because he's still young enough. You know, if you have a busy family or if you have other pets, then he's going to be able to incorporate anything into his life. But he is also past the very supervisory kitten stage where you have to just stay on top of them all the time because they'll eat paper clips and whatnot. And still kitten enough, as you saw. Randy had to do a little juggling to keep him engaged. And this is a great age to get a cat because you get the benefits of kittenhood without the amount of work that tiny kittens can be. So if you have thought about getting a cat, it can be overwhelming when you come to the shelter because we have a lot of them. So one of the things that people usually do first is they pick the cat based on color. And I want to caution you against that because it doesn't mean anything. So what happens is we have so many cats, the thing that draws you to the first cat is maybe a special marking on them, or the color that they are, or the fact that they're not the same color as your previous cat. And those are good ways to start, but we color code the cats blue, orange, and green with name tags. And that is a more valuable way to sort through the cats to choose one that's right for you. The blue cats are easy to handle and you make good lap cats, and the green cats are more active and sometimes shy. It depends. We use two designations for the green, either that they're shy and they're going to need some extra help, or they're just young and they don't know anything. So if you come into the shelter, before you come in and fall in love with a cat based on what he or she looks like, have in your mind, I definitely want a blue one, I definitely want a green one, the name tags. And so that when you come in, you won't be distracted. Now, does that mean you're not going to fall in love with a cat that's out of the range you already decided? Of course not. But it can be hard to come into the shelter and take 50 cats at face value and try to pick one. If you have some way to narrow down your choices so that when you come in, there's 5 or 6 that you want to take out and hold and see if they make a good match, it makes it a lot easier to choose. And if you are up to the constant supervision of little tiny 3-pounders, then we will have them shortly. We have about 3 or 4 foster families that have litters, and they will be trickling back into the shelter over the next few months. And between April and October, we always get over 1,000 kittens. So it's going to happen, and we'll have every kind of kitten you could possibly imagine. But if you think Biff is the one, then by all means, come in and meet him. Our next feline guest is Spring, and Spring is a beautiful brown tabby cat who also came to us as a stray. In her case, she was hanging around a property for some time, and so the people considered that she might, just go home. And one of the things that you never know about cats that are outside, especially if they're friendly, is you don't want to offer them food, because that might make them stay around rather than go back to the home that they belong to. It can also be hard if they don't have a collar on to find out where they belong, because cats, of course, don't walk down the street and follow the road and sidewalk. They cut through gulches and drainage areas and woods, so they could be within a mile of their home on a completely different street in a completely different neighborhood. So you'll ask all of your neighbors, is this your cat? Do you know whose cat this is? And of course no one does. And yet the house that she belongs to is within eyesight, through trees, over a pond. So it can be very hard to figure out where cats who obviously have received care all winter, she's in great shape, where they belong. So a lot of times when people see a new cat in the neighborhood, they wait, hoping that she'll go home, the owner will put up posters, or someone will say something and they'll find out who she belongs to. Now, this time of year, the risk in that, which is why we're very grateful that these people brought her in, is that this is the time of year where cats are breeding and then they have litters of kittens. And then you get into a whole difficult problem. If you can't catch the kittens and you get the mom, then the kittens aren't getting their care of their mother. Or if you catch some of the kittens and not all of the kittens, the mom takes the remaining kittens and leaves. So difficult time of year for cats that are not people's pets. So we definitely appreciate all that everyone does to feed and care for neighborhood cats, to alert us to them, to catch the friendly ones they can and bring them in hopes that we're going to find their owners. And Spring is one of those who was rescued, brought to us. We couldn't find the owner, so she definitely needs one of her own. And if you think it's going to be you, then come on in and meet her and see if it's a good match. This beautiful cat is Bella, and Bella also came to us as a stray, neighborhood type cat. Someone was looking out for her and hoping they could find her owner and not able to. So they brought her to us to see if we could. As you can see, she is, she's between 2 and 3 years old, but as you can see, she is a very beautiful cat. Her color is a mixture of tabby and tortoiseshell, but she has beautiful round eyes and a tiny little face, and I don't know if you can tell because Randy's very good at this, but she's much more active. She wants to get down. She wants to walk around. Her confidence is showing. And so it is something to think about when you're choosing a cat. If you want an interactive, playful, outgoing cat, or if you want a cat that's just going to be, kind of an adornment and lie around on your lap and enjoy your company. And it might be the opposite of what you think. If you're a very busy, active person, you might want a laid-back, quiet cat. And if you are a very quiet and to yourself person, you might want an active, playful cat. Or you might want one that complements your own personality. So it's a lot to think about because sometimes we don't. We think cats are interchangeable or dogs are interchangeable, and they're absolutely, like people, not. They're so different. You don't want to just move in with someone that you don't know and say, well, I'm sure it'll work out, he's a nice guy. The same for choosing an animal to share your space with. You want to make sure they match you for your sake and for their sake. She's going to make this challenging, so we'll keep it short so she stays happy. And as you can see, she's beautiful, active. She's going to make somebody just a lovely companion, and she definitely wants to do stuff. Our last feline guest of this episode of Pet Pals is Marigold. And Marigold's about a year old, and her coat color is almost indescribable. Technically, she's probably Torby because she is part tabby and she is tricolored. She's got some orange and some black. But she is also got stripes on her head and feet and tail, but not on the middle of her body. So we call that lynx point. And point refers to special markings on the feet, face, tail, and ears. And lynx just means that it's tiger striped. So basically, she's just beautiful. She's about a year old. She's friendly and outgoing, and like all of the cats that you adopt from Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center, she will be spayed and microchipped and started on her vaccines. The great thing about getting a cat from the shelter is that if you go to a veterinarian in Frederick who participates in our first visit program, then a rabies shot and a checkup will be no charge to you. And how we do that is obviously through the generosity of these veterinarians, because they want people to adopt from the shelter. They also want to welcome new clients that might be interested in bringing their new pet into their practice. But also because when they get the rabies shot, they send the pink coupon that we give you into us, and we reimburse them $8. And I can tell you that in the case of the new feline vaccine, it doesn't even cover the cost of them giving the vaccine, but they are trying to help this whole program of cat adoption. Then the other thing is that when you go to the animal hospital with your new pet, which we recommend you do within the first week, they're also going to tell you about all the things you can do for preventive medicine. And the reason it's great to do that is up front, you're going to pay a little bit more for your cat's care, but in the end you pay less. And what I mean by that is, let's say your cat's first visit is $100, and you get a booster and a stool sample and some worm medicine and all kinds of information about how to take care of your cat, maybe some free samples that vets give, then you're all set. If not, what happens is you go to the vet, you get the free checkup and the rabies shot, and you go home. And 2 weeks later, your kitty has diarrhea. So you go to the vet and she needs fluids because she got dehydrated and a special bland diet, and she has to have worm medicine. And then you end up spending more money that way because you're taking care of a sick animal and you need diagnostics like maybe even blood work or an x-ray. Whereas if you do the preventive medicine by deworming her and treating her for fleas, you can prevent a lot of the minor infections and disturbances that cats and dogs get by giving them treatments to keep them from getting sick. Also, a high quality diet is a big part of that. The better the food they eat, the better shape they're in when they do come in contact with infectious agents. Thanks for joining us this week on Pet Pals. And I hope that we see you in the shelter. If you're not interested in adopting now, we totally understand. Thank you for doing your part by being a responsible caretaker of the pets you have at home, and for reporting animal incidents that we can help with. And if you are an animal lover, as I'm sure you are if you're watching the show, then you can help us out by sharing pictures of animals on your social networking, going to Pet Finder and printing out profiles of animals and posting them out and about in your neighborhood, and sharing this episode of Pet Pals. There will be a link at the bottom of your screen to do that. And donating sheets, towels, indestructible pet toys, old pet supplies you're not using, all kinds of things. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode and hope to see you next time.